Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, and an intriguing puzzle today. I'm going to have a look at Diag Arrow by Celery. I said in a recent video, in fact I used as a title that celery was becoming my favourite vegetable, which is entirely a personal joke because I don't really like vegetables much. I mean, I eat quite a lot of vegetables, but I never love them. Anyway, I'd forgotten that Asparticus is obviously a name based on asparagus, and I didn't want to diss Asparticus at all, who is a brilliant constructor as well. But celery is very good, and I'm really looking forward to trying this. I'm talking about the constructor. I don't mind the vegetable. A leek and celery soup can be excellent, actually. Anyway, shut up, Mark. Talk about puzzles. Right, we've got, check out our Patreon for all the Sudoku hunts, as always, including the main monthly rewards and the kids hunts and loads of crossword content on there to go along with the crossword content on the channel, the Wordle content on the channel. Oh, I mean, there's so much going on. We're obviously working on book 2. We've got apps in the pipeline as well as loads of apps out. You can check those out for brilliant handcrafted Sudoku. You can get Sven's Sudoku pad and play your own Sudoku puzzles on that. You've got all kinds of things, merchandise and the Discord server and the catalogue of our puzzles. Just check the links under the video, it's all there. But the first one is to this puzzle, Diag Arrow by Celery. And let's go through the rules now. So, normal Sudoku rules apply. 1 to 9 in every row, every column, and every box. Digits on an arrow, sum to the value in the attached circle. A clue outside the grid indicates the sum of the digits along the marked diagonal, so those digits will add up to 21. In both of these cases, digits can repeat if they're allowed by normal Sudoku rules to do so, because there's no prohibition on that. And that's the rules. Do give the puzzle a try. I am going to reset my clock and start now. Let's get cracking. So, I've no idea how to look at this. There seem to me to be very few clues. In addition to that, the arrows are quite short. 2 of them at least could be really minimal. You could have a 1 and 1 on both of those arrows, actually. And the little killer clues, the diagonal sums, just are weirdly averagey. 26 for 6 cells is averaging out at just over 4. And even the small, 5 being the average Sudoku number, that's not very helpful. Even this one, the minimum fill for those cells adds up to 12. 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3, and 19 is 7 degrees of freedom away from that. That's really, just doesn't seem to me to be very helpful. There's definitely no other rule about king's moves or knight's moves, which might help. Okay, all I'm going to do for now, and while I think about this a bit more, is write in 6, 7, 8, 9 in those 2 circles, because their 3 digits have to be different on the arrow. Oh, I mean, is this going to be a whole puzzle? No, it's not. You know, I'm starting to think, what if I colour all these paths? Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the paths through box 4 of the little killer clues is they don't touch the arrow. And I do find that a bit interesting. Because well, every number on the arrow. Maybe it's more interesting in box 8 because everything's trying to be a bit small. Okay, 26 may be below, maybe close to 30, which would be the average for 6 digits. But it is below it, and 21's even further below it. So in a sense, there is some pressure on these numbers to be quite small. But there really is also pressure on these numbers to be quite small. More pressure, probably, because of this total. But how do I bring that pressure to bear? I don't really know. So you could wonder whether 9 can go... Let's see, can 9 go in those cells? It can, unfortunately. I mean, there's no problem. 9... No, you see, there is a problem. 9, 2, 1, I was thinking would be fine. Then they could add up to as many as 9, but you couldn't have 9, 2, 1 here, because this is going to have at least 2 of the 1, 2, 3 digits on it. The one thing I know about adding up to even 9 in 3 cells is you have to use 2 of the really low digits, 1, 2, and 3. And the same's certainly true of 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, you see, interesting. If that was a 6, this would have to be 1, 2, 3. The least this could be is 4, 5, 6. And that's also the most that group of cells can add up to, 15. And that could be 1, 2, 3 and would get to the 21 number. So for that to be 6 would take away all the degrees of freedom off this arrow, off this diagonal. So that is quite interesting. Yeah, and if you did make that 4, 5, 6, then the minimum for this is a 4 in the middle and a 7, 8 there, which is 15 plus the 4 is 19. These would have to add up to 7, no more than 7, and along with the cells here, you couldn't get to more than 16 for those 6 cells. But any 6 cells have to add up to a minimum of 21. And that's a lot of degrees of freedom. Now I'm getting confused that there's not enough degrees of freedom when I just thought a moment ago there were far too many. Okay, let's do some colouring. Let's colour this diagonal yellow. And this one blue. That blue. Then we'll make that arrow red and this one purple. And now maybe let's think about this a bit harder. So 6 there wouldn't work because that would require red to be 1, 2, 3. These blues would have to be 4, 5, 6. These would now add up to 7, 8, 4 at a minimum, making these add up to no more than 7 and making this 6-some impossible. Right, what is the maximum these 3 can add up to? And the answer I think is 12, and I'm basing that maximum on these 6 squares must add up to at least 21, and the most that those 3 can add up to is 9. So I think the least these are allowed to add up to is 12. That means that the most, you have to be very careful with minimums forcing maximums, or minima forcing maxima and so on. The most these can add up to is 14. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, that's, oh gosh, the most they can add up to is 14. Yeah, okay, if I ignored the blue, yellow, I mean this already, just ignoring the blue, yellow and red, this would have to be at least a 7 to allow yellow and red to add up to at least 21. Because you've got 14 in the yellow, to get up to 21 you need 7 in the red. 21 is the minimum as the 6th triangular number, which I do know, David. And that would make this a 7. And that's ignoring the blue, but we cannot ignore the blue because the blue minimum here is 6, so the maximum here is 15. Now, if the maximum there is 15 and the maximum of yellow is 14, that is 29, but it double counts this cell. So, okay, let's just keep that in mind. The maximum for those is 29, but it double counts that. If that was a 1, the maximum fill for those 5 cells is 28. The maximum fill for the red is 9. That takes us up to 37. You do, of course, know the secret. And if you don't, listen hard. Every row, column and box, including box 8, always adds up to 45 because that's the sum of 1 to 9. And we've just worked out that the maximum fill for blue and yellow in box 8 is 28. And that is only if you have a 1 being double counted there. Let me just check this. 6 is the minimum there, so 15 on the blue in box 8. I can't delineate it. 15 on the blue is the minimum. The minimum here, what was it? It was 12, wasn't it? Because the maximum there is 9. This is a complicated way of doing it, but it's right. 12 there. So the maximum of these is 14, and the maximum of these is 15. That's 29. Now, if you have the minimum repeater here, that's a 1. That gives you 28. The maximum of these is 9. That takes you up to 37 if you use all those extreme cases. And that allows this to be an 8. So this cell that is not in those coloured cells is 8 or 9. And there is only 1 degree of freedom. And what does that 1 degree of freedom apply to? It applies to this cell, which must be a 1 or a repeating 2. It applies to this cell, which must be the maximum 9 or the 1 number below it, 8. It applies to this blue, which has to add up. No, it doesn't. It applies to blue and yellow together. But I think I can still use that. If we had the 1 repeating, like we assume the maximum 9 there and 9 there, that's 18. Then these cells add up to 27. The entry to them. But for the purposes of blue and yellow, they add up to at least 28. Blue and yellow together add up to 47, 26 and 21. You take out the 28 that's in box 8, maximum. You've got 19 in blue and yellow, which has to be at least 12 here and at least 6 here. So there is only 1 degree of freedom on those bits of yellow and blue. And here, that means these digits are from 1, 2, 3, 4, and they include 1 and 2. Here it's a bit less clear cut, but it applies to yellow plus purple, which now, given that that must add up to 12 or 13, and this, the whole of yellow and purple must add up to at least 21, the total for purple is now 8 or 9 as well as the total for red. And there's still really only 1 degree of freedom anywhere in this puzzle, in the bits I've been looking at. And it's fascinating. How am I going to use up that degree of freedom? Could be there, could be there, could be there, could be there. If you made any of those 8, that would use up the degree of freedom. If you made that 2, it would use it up. If you made that 1, 2, 4, it would use it up. If you made that add up to 13, it would use it up. That's weird. No, hang on. No, that's not, that last bit was not true. It's if you made that add up to 22, it would use it up. And that's the difficult thing, is seeing this in the way we're meant to. Oh, it's hard. Now, what's happened to this baby up here? Because this group of cells adds up to 21 or 22. There's only 1 degree of freedom on that. So these 3 add up to 23 or 24. They must use digits 6, 7, 8 or 9. They're either 6, 8, 9 or 7, 8, 9. And the minimum value of those two is 14, 6 and 8. You can only use one of 6 or 7 in these white cells in box 4. And then you have to use 8 or 9. So 6 and 8 is possible there. 14 there. Those well, let's say 6 for now as the maximum. 20 plus another 1. Let's say it could be a 1 here. 21. There's 3 degrees of freedom on there. And I haven't even thought about this 19 diagonal. My goodness. You have to think about the whole puzzle holistically. I bet you do. So these 2 cells can't include 1 or 2. They could have 1 of 3 or 4. So at a minimum, 3 and 5 there, I reckon, is 8. Plus a 1 in the crossing point is a 9. So the maximum these can add up to is 10. That was 6, 1, 8 at a minimum, 15. The maximum these can add up to is 9. So the maximum for these is 19, including a double count here. And that double count cell is a circle. It can't be less than 2. So now the maximum fill for these 5 cells is 17, which has 2 degrees of freedom from the minimum fill. Wow, this is bonkers. The trouble is, that's 2 degrees of freedom to add on to the 1 degree of freedom I had in all the blue, yellow, red and purple. So there are kind of 3 degrees of freedom in the puzzle, but I realise that if I could just see this for what it is, I could actually eliminate some of those. Oh, I mean, all of it is making me think that it's going to end up with this being a minimal 2 and that being 1 because it sees it, and that being 1. Oh, look, no, there's 1 degree of freedom wasted here because this is a double count cell as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I do have to look at it all together. I'm sorry. This was probably the obvious way to go, and I kind of eschewed it for a while. But it's mad. It's mad because everything is constrained by these extra arrows in red and purple. Right. Let's just add the minimum value. So if this blue and orange in box 6 were the minimum digits in there, they would add up. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'd add up to 15, but that would be double counted in terms of the little killer clues. So that would be 16. I'm just going to aid memoir that up here. 16 in box 6. Up here, let's say it's the same sort of thing. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including something double counted here, which is at least a 2 this time. Let's say that much, because it's in the circle. So they add up to at least 17 in terms of the double count, the contribution towards the little killer clues. These ones are much more constrained because you have to have at least 14 there, at least 12 here based on what I did earlier. I think that I'm going to just stick with that. That's 26, and at least 8 here. That's 34. No, hang on. What's the way to look at this? It's to assume a maximum 9 there and a maximum 9 in purple, and that's 18 there. Then these cells have to add up to a minimum 27, and that's the digits entered. So one of them's going to be double counted. Let's assume it's a 1, and that is a total of 28 towards the little killer clues. Down here again, 9 there and 9 there is 18. It's exactly the same deal. These add up to a minimum of 27 with a double count that takes us up to 28. And now we have got 56, 72, 89 for the 4 little killer clues. What do they actually add up to? My goodness, 26, 50, 71, they add up to 90. There is 1 degree of freedom, and I know where that goes. It goes here because I was counting these both as 1. on the double count in row 5. And they cannot both be 1 because they see each other. So there we go. That is how the minimal thing works. That has taken me over, well, 17.5 minutes. And I could have probably looked at that first off, but I am delighted to get this done. So we've got a 1, 2 there. We've got a 1 or 2 here. We've got a 1 and 2 here, and we know exactly which way round they are. There are 2 there and a 1 there. And that 2 is going to need 1s on its arrow. And everything on these X's, well, no, everything on these 2 X's in boxes 2 and 6, I can't do them, but in boxes 2 and 6 are absolutely minimum. So that's a 3, 4, 5. Here, well, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squad of numbers. And we know from our earlier work that these ones are either 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4. So 5 is definitely in one of those cells. Now, has this 19 diagonal got any more? 2, 3. If those are a minimum of 8, 10, 11. Oh, maybe let's work on the maximum. 5 and 4, maximum 9, plus 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17, plus 2 is 19. That's how it has to be. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Celery. You are a genius. Right. I mean, in some ways, I've seen puzzles like this before, but it hasn't equipped me to do this. Oh, sorry, that was meant to be a 5, a genuine full 5. Right. That is how the orange 19 is made up. This one now has got 9 there. These add up to 15. The minimum for those 2 was 6 and 8. That's what they are. This is the 1. That works well with that 2. 15 there. Bingo. Now that arrow has to be 2, 3, 4. Makes 9. I've only just noticed putting in this 1 also makes the red arrow 2, 3, 4 with a 9. Now I suspect, well, that has to be maximal 9 and that has to be maximal 9. That was part of the minimizing everything else. So that's a 5, 7 pair, and we've got 13 there plus 14. These add up to 12. They're 5, 7. These are 1, 3. And these are 6, 8. And I hope the blue diagonal adds up correctly now. 14, 15, 21. It does. There we go. Wow. Okay, let's get rid of the colours because we've done them. That's brilliant. That is, I mean, literally, I feel like I've run a marathon just to get this far. Fantastic. Well, not a marathon. Let's say I've run a 5K to get this far, and I've got to complete the 10K. We can do a 2 there. That's not a 2. And I mean, now I can forget the little killer clues. They've been fully answered, which is a relief, actually. I could do some sudoku, which I quite like, as a little interlude during my sudoku puzzle. 9 must be there. We can't put it on the arrow, or the arrow would have to, or the arrow would add to a minimum 10. These are 6, 7, and 8. This cannot be 3 now, because this would either be 9, 10, or 11. It clashes with 9. We're not allowed to put 10 or 11 in, so that's a 1. This is now making this 7 or 8. That's not an 8. Okay. This has to be bigger than this, so that's not 8. And now in the box, this is 8. This can't be 7 because we can't put 1 on the end of the arrow. That's 6. That's 2. I like this now. I mean, I like the puzzle all the way through, but I enjoy it when we get it reduced a bit to stuff I can do. 7 and 5. I mean, as you can see, my brain was getting a little bit fried. Oh, look at this arrow. 3 and 4 is the minimum contents of the arrow, but 8 is the maximum contents of the circle. So it's either 3, 4 or 3, 5 there. Definitely a 3. Now apparently all this information is enough to complete the puzzle. Because I mean, I've used the arrows now virtually. Very strange. Okay, well, I will plug on. Happy that that is the case, but I still need to solve it. 3, 4, 1, 9, 2. We need a 5 in one of those cells. 9, 1, 2. But we need a 5 somewhere in this row in one of those 3 cells. And when you can say that 5 has to be in one of those 3 and one of those 2, you know it's there in the centre of the grid, as it so often is in these brilliant constructions, for reasons that are probably entirely clear to brilliant constructors and much more opaque to myself. 9, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that 6 has made this a 7. That finishes that arrow. Now that can't be 8. Good. 3, 4, and 6 to place in row 5. 3, 6 there. Yeah, that does those corners. That can't be a 3. 5 and 7, they're not resolved. 4 and 5 aren't resolved. This 6 and 8, I keep thinking I'm just missing obvious sudoku. That can't be a 7. That's about all I'm missing. Now there has to be a 1 in row 6, and it has to be there. Six is in, there's a 6-8 pair, so that's not 6, and in row 5 that is 6, and that does fix 8 and 6. Tigger bouncing back on itself. Now I've got a 6-7 pair in column 5, and that's an 8. 8, 5, 6, 1, 9. That is, oh look, there's a 3, 4 pair in this column, so that's the last thing it can be. It's a 2. There's now a 3, 4 pair in box 4, and that's a 2. 6, 2, 8, 9, 1. This is 3, 4, or 7. Actually, I don't know which it is. That's 4 or 7. There's still work to do here, because that didn't all unwind. I might be missing a very obvious Sudoku bit, but got to carry on as we are. I keep seeing this 3 X-wing, which is putting a 3 in one of those cells, but it doesn't really seem to actually help. There's a 1 also up there somewhere, and an 8 in one of those two. So I'm narrowing down a few digits in box 1. 9, 2, 6. Maybe I can use this arrow more than I have. It's either 7, 3, 4, in which case that is a 5, 6, 8 triple, or it's 8, 3, 5, and that's a 4, 6, 7 triple. No, I find that difficult to use. There's a 2 in one of those cells. Feel like I'm missing one piece of the puzzle. Whichever of 7 or 8 is there is in one of these cells. 8, 1, 3, 9. Oh, there's a 9 in one of those two. Yeah, it's surprising to me this arrow is still variable. Oh, it's not, of course. We got that 8 recently. There we go. It was just Sudoku, and my cursor was probably hovering over it as I was moaning about not knowing what it was, because that's the way I roll. 8 there, and a 5, 6 pair. 7, 3, 4. That 7 has sorted out 5 and 7. That is going to unwind the rest of this. That sorts out 5 and 4. That stops, that goes over here and does 3 and 4 and 3, and that's a 7, and this is a 4, and that's the middle 3 rows done. I also get the corners up in box 2. Now, 5, 6, 8, 2. I feel I need to look down here. Yes, look, that's a 9, 7 pair. In fact, that's a naked 9, and that becomes where 7 has to be in the box. Then we've got 1, 3, and 4. That one is 3 or 4, and that is a pair in the bottom row. Then I get a 3, 4 pair in this row, and this must be a 1, 5, 6 triple. Each of which can come out of one of those cells. This is a 2, 8, 9 triple. I can put 8 in there, 9 in here, and 2 in the corner. Ooh, will I get a 3 in this corner? It's my last chance. That 3 has sorted out 4 and 3 down there. These are from 5, 6, 7. 8 can't be there. So 8 in box 1 is there. That pushes 1 to here. And that fixes this triple back down here. We've got 9, 2 and 5 in column 3. We've got 7 and 6, and I don't know the order in column 2. And I must know the order of 4 and 3 in column 1. I do. So 2, 5, that is 5 or 6. We can place 2 there. Then 9 in that corner. 1, 2, 9, 8. We get a 6. Don't know quite where. This is 5 or 7. Let's do rows. Oh yeah, that's a 4 in row 1. These are from 3, 6, 7. That one can't be 6 and that one can't be 7. Should probably just proceed on the basis that Celery will have given me a 3 in the corner. And I'm not going to do that. So how do these unwind? There's either something totally obvious. Yes, there is a 4 looking at that cell. We don't get a 3 in the corner. No song today. Thought it was coming. I'm glad I didn't proceed on the basis that it was going to happen. Oh, that 5 has been looking at this 6, 5 pair throughout. Sorry. There we go. 6, 3, 7, 5. What a glorious puzzle. What absolute brilliance. That is the sort of puzzle I love. Just under half an hour somehow. And wasn't it 17 minutes before I actually worked out what those diagonals were doing, along with these 2 little 9 arrows, so little in the grid. It's an absolute work of genius. We get this so often on the channel, but this is yet another one. Brilliant stuff. Thank you as always for watching us. Really hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.